Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and in this one, I will be bringing another PvP Restoration Druid guide. I'll be playing with an Enhancement Shaman and an Arms Warrior. This is a composition that is highly durable and enables multiple playstyles for the Restoration Druid. You can play a very turtling defensive playstyle, a mixed offensive defensive, or a full-out offensive playstyle. I've been having a lot of fun with Resto Druid in Arena, and I'm also going to be looking at Resto Druid in TBC as well for this reason, because of its ability to mix both offense and defense, and I find that to be very attractive. It's not dedicated to any given strategy, and you can really adapt your playstyle in the midst of a fight, and it is super fun and engaging. Now, if you've played on the ladder a lot, you've probably fought Enhancement Shaman and Arms Warrior a lot. It's very popular, it does a lot of damage, so in this clip I'm going to be running through my thought process and how to deal with Enhancement Shaman Warrior damage, what cooldowns to use, what crowd control to use, and when to use it, so that you can take that information into your own gameplay. Even if you don't play a Restoration Druid or this composition even, I think that this information will be relevant and pertain to you. So particularly against these classes, you need to be aware of the Doom Winds and the Ascendants of the Enhancement Shaman. These cooldowns together are devastating. These are when you want to use your most powerful defensive cooldowns, and usually the power of your cooldown is determined by the length of it. So if it takes 3 minutes for it to reset, that's probably one of your most powerful cooldowns to be able to survive, and it's a good idea to line that up with the Ascendance of the Enhancement Shaman, which is also around that time frame. So this cooldown you need to pay close attention to. For the Arms Warrior, you want to be paying attention to the Warbreaker or the Colossus Smash debuff. This is when the Warrior is going to be cycling in a lot of damage, but you need to be careful of the Sharpened Blade Mortal Wounds effect. That will reduce your healing by 50%. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. You got to heal into it, but if you can manage to sit through it and use your big heal after to top a target, that's going to be a really good idea. And I love saving Nature's Swiftness for those moments. So at the start of the fight, your team is going to just run in. Both teams are going to probably get ready, and in this type of mirror matchup, I'm anticipating my shaman to be the target, so I get 2 rejuves up, and then I just reposition over into the back line of the bridge. I don't necessarily want to get too close to this type of engagement, and right away I'm just going to pop my Adaptive Swarm. This is kind of my cycle heal against this composition because it does a lot of damage. I'm going to use Overgrowth Cenarian Ward with Innervate, so it's absolutely free, and line up full hots on my shaman. This is going to allow my shaman to play aggressive, but I do not use my Iron Bark. They swap over to my warrior though, as I've fully hotted my shaman, and I have to split my cooldowns. And you can see Ascendance has been popped, so my warrior uses their Die by the Sword. That's the most powerful defensive cooldown for the warrior, answering for the most powerful cooldown of the Enhancement Shaman. It was a bit overlapped with my Iron Bark, as I was anticipating less damage at this time, but because the Ascendance was used in conjunction with so many other cooldowns, it's going to be okay that you've overlapped in this moment. Just make sure that you keep Life Plume on the other target. That's what you want to make sure you're doing as a druid, is splitting up your heal over time effects. So Life Plume is very powerful. Keep that on the shaman while defensive cooldowns are active on the warrior, because they don't want to attack into the defensive cooldowns. They'll switch to the shaman and attack into full heal over time effects, and you'll buffer the damage a lot better. Anytime you see the warrior running at you to go for crowd control, you want to use Mass Entanglement. That's what I just saw there. And this is the big attack on a paladin team. Hammer of Justice and Stormbolt. And you can see the Sharpened Blade effect here, and it's lasting for 2 more seconds. I don't Swift Mend into that. I set up all of my hots, and then when that has ended, I'll look for my Swift Mend. It gets a big heal, and it extends all those hots with my legendary, and I can then use a Soul of the Forest Regrowth to top my target. Now, my warrior is vulnerable in this position. They don't have Die by the Sword. I don't have Iron Bark, so you need to be really aware of this, and the enemy team is attacking my shaman. So I try and deter their attack on my warrior by using Thorns, which redirects damage back to melee attackers. This is more of a bluff. I'm just basically saying, hey, don't hit my warrior right now because you'll get hit by Thorns, whereas hitting my warrior actually would be devastating for me, and it would put them in defensive stance. So this can stall out the game for a couple of seconds, and then I can utilize Mass Entanglement and other crowd control effects. Here the paladin runs at me and tries to go for Hammer of Justice, but didn't actually have it available. Might have been just likely running away from my team, but anytime you can Cyclone the Paladin and they come to you, I would recommend it. This can be a dangerous comp to use Cyclone against because of so much disruption with Wind Shear and grounding, but when the team has brought the fight on top of me, my only choice is to reposition or go for cyclones. And with this map, if I reposition, I'm going to be jumping off the bridge out of line of sight. I'm going to be running on top of them. It could be quite difficult. So instead, I do start fishing for cyclones. I start getting things like the grounding totems out of the way. Here is Sharpened Blade, but my shaman is so low, there's no other choice but to use Swiftmend and Nature Swiftness. And even with the Sharpened Blade effect, Nature Swiftness was still able to top the shaman, and likely with some help of the shaman's healing as well in that position. So as a result, you will recover. It's not always the end of the world. You just would like to be greedy if you can, but if you can't, then you will have to use Nature Swiftness, and my shaman uses their Astral Shift. Now in this position, this is the Colossus Smash, right? The Warbreaker I was talking about, this yellow icon, and they're attacking my warrior, who is very limited on defensive cooldowns. So my Adaptive Swarm is on the warrior. I'm not switching my life limbs though, as they are cleaving 2 targets, and both of my allies do not have a lot of cooldowns. Because of this, I start going for crowd control. I root the Enhancement Shaman, I root the warrior, and then I start cycloning the shaman, and I'm trying to pay attention to this icon here, the Wind Shear, which is a ranged interrupt, and this icon here, the grounding totem, which will interrupt or soak up my incoming cyclone. Those weren't available. Good opportunity to cast a cyclone. Now my warrior a bit overextended. I have to use Swiftmend and Ironbark, and again, this is into the Sharpened Blade only because my warrior has no other choice. There's no Dab of the Sword to fall back on. I don't want them to fall too far behind, and it's not the end of the world. Now in this position, I drop an Ursul's Vortex. This is because I'm anticipating the warrior's movement towards me to go for a Stormbolt and to go for a Hammer of Justice on my shaman. That's the setup we saw earlier. So you can use Ursul's Vortex like this to pin the warrior in place. And right there, I did actually have enough time to dispel and should have, but because I didn't, I'm going to Trinket the Stormbolt and remove the Hammer of Justice. We don't have a lot of defensive cooldowns in this position, so we're going to start using medallions to break crowd control and just get a ton of effective healing out. Here we go for an Intimidating Shot across the team, and that gets the medallion of their paladin. This is going to open up windows of opportunities to win, but we're in a tough position, right? What do we do when our mana is low? We could retreat and drink. We don't really have a lot of defensive cooldowns to do that, or we just need to go all out and do damage. And that's really the decision that I'm trying to make right now, and I'm gauging it based on the pressure, right? If my shaman is constantly dipping from 100 to 50%, I'm not going to be able to go for a drink. So I use Nature Swiftness here, and I start to recover my shaman. As soon as my shaman's recovered, I start hotting my warrior. The warrior should use Ignore Pain, obviously, in this position when they're going to get swapped to, because you've already recovered your shaman, you've given them defensive cooldowns, and you can utilize Thorns to try and thwart their swap, or you can just use Adaptive Swarm to increase your healing on that target, so a swap to the warrior isn't as devastating, and a lot of their damage is likely going to go wasted into that healing. Here comes the Stormbolt on me, but we stun their paladin at the same time. They do likely want to go for Hammer of Justice, but they're getting pressured too hard and won't be able to. And now, having swapped to the paladin and really putting up the pressure, instead of going to drink, I'm going to get aggressive with my team. We get Divine Shield and 0.6% health, almost winning the game at that point. But I really want to stay with the team. I want to get crowd control. And with the bubble just about to end and my team trying to get back to the Paladin, this is a good opportunity to go for Incapacitating Roar on the Paladin. And now I can maybe look for a Cyclone as well. There is Wind Shear available, so it could be risky. And with the Warrior charging me now, there's no reason to really try to go for it. But I think I tried to anyways. I'm going to need to get through Grounding Totem. I get feared on it. There's going to be a ton of disruption. So don't be too tunnel visioned on going for Cyclones, although they do get big payouts. I think that a Cyclone actually did ultimately win this match, but you just need to be working through all those things and be patient and not expect really to get one. Here we use Sharpened Blade on their shaman at very low health. We stun their paladin to stop their healing. When the paladin is stunned, I can jump over to their healer and I can Cyclone out of a Stormbolt. They're downstairs out of line of sight, unable to interrupt me. So pay attention to positioning. That's why I didn't go for a fake cast. And with no Divine Shield and with no medallion, I root the shaman so that my team can catch up to the shaman as the shaman is trying to kite and avoid damage. So using roots both defensively and offensively, another great addition to the Resto Druid toolkit. I can use Stampeding Roar to reposition, and here comes a Stormbolt from the Warrior, and I have no Bark Skin. This is the scariest situation you could be in as a Resto Druid, but thankfully we have a Conduit that will trigger Frenzied Regeneration automatically. This Conduit now is healing me while I'm sitting through these stuns. I should have gone into Bear Form when the Warrior was so close to me, but immediately out of the stun, I'm going to go for Overgrowth, and I'm going to go for a Swiftmend onto my Warrior and a Nature Swiftness, and I got to be honest, there was a little bit of luck involved with that, trying to guess who was going to be the target, my warrior with no die by the sword or me with no bark skin. So I tried to split up my healing accordingly, and they almost caught me off guard. Now their shaman has Ascendance up, but it's pretty much all or nothing at this point for us to be able to win. We use our powerful defensive cooldown Astral Shift for their Ascendance as my shaman's the target. With that defense bolstering up my shaman, I'm going to feel pretty confident to be able to heal them up and go for a Cyclone. And now landing the Cyclone on the Paladin, the Shaman has no defensive cooldowns. We want to jump in with Moonfires. We want to do as much damage as we can because that's the main win condition, right? The Shaman has no cooldowns to live, can't avoid damage. The Paladin can't escape crowd control. You want to hammer in with some Moonfires. That's the time to get really aggressive with any amount of damage that you have, Vortex and Roots, etc. And you're going to be able to find victory by cycling between offense and defense. If I wanted to in this match, I had a bunch of different decisions, and that's something that you need to take into account for your own team's playstyle. When my team had gotten aggressive in bubble, I could have retreated away and drank and just guaranteed a more safe victory later on in the match, or you can choose to go in and be aggressive, and that's really going to be up to your own intuition. I think that either one of those paths could have been correct. The offensive path won the game, but if the match had continued to go on for a few more, maybe a minute, maybe it wouldn't have, whereas the drink would have been better in that position. So take the risk and the reward into account when you're making your decisions, healing in PvP with your team. You just need to be letting your team know if you're going to go for a drink, to be aware of that so that they are playing more defensive and a bit more hesitant. But as a result, they may not be able to net a kill. So take that into account. But I hope that this guide was helpful to you in your endeavors in the arena. If you liked it, please leave it with a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I'm going to be uploading arena content, PvP content for World of Warcraft, and constant updates for the game as a whole. So definitely do that. Just let you know when my videos go live. And a lot of people have been telling me that these guides have helped them climb rating, and they love my update videos. So it's a good channel to be around. Appreciate it if you did, but you don't have to. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.